Thank you for having me. My name is Alexandria. I currently live in Korea as a medical communication specialist, and I also do a few other freelance jobs on the side, such as freelance makeup artistry and editing, medical editing and transcription.
Oh,
Well, I actually studied in Korea first. I had never left America, so I kind of grew up poor, and I could never leave the continental US, so I'd never been outside the big place. And when I got to college, I really wanted to go abroad, and I didn't really care where I went.
oh,
As a matter of fact, I had no idea about Korea. I didn't know anything about Korea or the language or anything. I was just looking for scholarships that I could use to go with my credits for college. That was literally all I was looking for. I was looking for a way I could go pretty much for free and still get the abroad experience. And Korea was one of those places. So I only studied in Korea for about a semester. It was a really great semester at the university. I had a great time. But when I came back, my reverse culture shock was too much for me to cope with for the most part. And I was also applying for medical school, and that's also really stressful. And I was a senior in college. And I was also an honors student, so we have to do this thesis paper. So I had to write a paper on 3 years worth of research. So basically, overall, I was an anxious mess, full of depression from the reverse culture shock, and extremely anxious from the impending medical school interviews. And I just remember waking up in the middle of the night, just crying because I just knew that I wasn't going to succeed or be good. So I decided then that I probably needed to take a gap year. And I didn't really know where I was going to take a gap year. I didn't know whether I was going to do a post-bac or not. And then I got an email from the program that I had studied abroad with, and they offered me this job as a teacher. There were other countries that were offered, like Japan and Vietnam and like China, but I didn't really know much about China. And I knew some about Japan, but then Japan wasn't paying that well. And then Korea was like, okay, we'll give you a house and a plane ticket and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going back to Korea to teach for a year. And then I ended up here for 4. I would like to call that my exploratory phase. My friends know it as another phase. I was quite famous in the first city I was in. All the bars knew me quite well.
oh,
Yeah, no discrimination this way. Um, I lived in a city with a military base. So yeah, that is the most I can say without just incriminating myself to a degree that I don't think I want to do. I had a superpower. My superpower was getting my friends free drinks at the bar. No matter when we went or what bar we went to, we always got the whole table free drinks.
oh, okay.
That was my superpower. I was well known. You can ask anyone. Again, so I actually, so a lot of people have like really bad experiences dating here. I was not one of those people. I had a great time, like a great time. But I think a big part of me having such a fun time was that I wasn't looking for anything serious. I would just go to the bar and pretty much pick a guy, and that would be the guy that for that day or night. I didn't use the apps a lot. I was more of a liquid courage, go for it kind of girl. I did meet one or two people on the apps. I did meet one guy who was a military guy. I met him for like we had a FWB situation for like 9 months, and it was like very casual. I did have the wild Tinder story with the Korean guy where he had a girlfriend, and yeah, and then he called me later and he was like, but I still want to see you again. And I'm like, but you have a whole girlfriend. And his whole excuse was, but she won't have sex with me, so it's not cheating. And I was like, is this logic? Is this logic? Is this a thing? I'm confused. So I did have like that story. And there was a guy with a wife, and I didn't know he had a wife, of course. And then I got a call from that wife like months after I had forgotten this dude. It was like a one night stand. I got a call from that wife, and she was just so calm about it. This woman found my Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I deleted Snapchat, but after this, Twitter, she found everything, and all of my socials at that time had like different names. So I was
Uh,
like, how did she even find me? Like, and he didn't even have my phone number. Like this guy didn't even have my phone number. So I was like, this woman is like some detective level stuff. And I was at the bus station in Seoul, and I got a call. I saw someone had been trying to call me and answer. She's like so calm. She's like, "Hi, you don't know me." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I don't." And she's like, "But did you sleep with a Latino guy like in October?" And I was like, at this point, I'm not lying to you because you obviously know the truth and I'm afraid. So yes, I did. And she's like, "I'm his wife." And I was like, "Oh." She's like, "It's okay. I'm sure he didn't tell you." And I was like, "I'm so sorry." And she's like, "It's fine. It's fine." And then she just interviewed me like to make sure we were safe and everything. And then she was like, "Okay, thank you for your time." And she just hung up and went about her day. I think those are the two craziest ones I've had though. So in my little, I call it exploratory phase, I was kind of getting tired of the whole song and dance. It was fun, but I was like, eh. I was also really happy being by myself, so that's why I didn't really want to date anyone. I was fine just like doing what I was doing. But I was like, maybe I should try to actually date someone. And like no sooner had I thought this, the friend with benefits guy that I was talking to, he had to take a trip back to America, and we had been having like kind of issues. So I told him like, I think we need to just while you're in America for that moment, just take some time or whatever to handle your business, and I guess when you come back we'll talk about it. And that night I was sad because I just torn the ligament in my leg at jiu-jitsu, and I was supposed to go on vacation during Solar to Busan, but I couldn't go, of course, if my ligament was broken. I couldn't really walk, and Busan is very mountainous. It's one huge mountain actually. And I just went to the bar and I got a drink. Guy was like, as I told you before, the bartenders all know me. Well, it's a pretty small town. So he was like, "Are you here for the party?" And I was like, "What party?" And he was like, blah, blah, blah is having a party today to go home. And I was like, "Oops, I forgot." He's like, "You should just stay. You look pretty sad. Just stay." So I was like, "You know what? It's fine. I don't where am I going to go with my leg? It's broken." So my friends were like, "Alex, you have to sit down. Do not move. We don't want you hurting your leg more. Just sit here." And I was like, "I'm not gonna do anything. I feel too bad." And then the bartender, we were all like, I had been there since the bar was open. Like when I got there, they just opened the bar. So this is like a year or two after I had already been in Korea. So he was giving like free bottles. And people were bringing bottles. So basically, in short, I got very drunk. In walks my husband. I just kind of glanced at him. I was like, "Oh, it's just like a tall Korean guy. Like, oh yeah, he's kind of cute, whatever." And I just like make a mental note and keep going about my life because I'm miserable. And then if I drink a certain level, I get very dancey. So I started like getting up and grooving. Like I was just grooving, not doing nothing crazy. My friends were still like, "We told you you can't be moving like that." And I was like, "No, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just grooving." And the guy wasn't taking any drinks or anything, but I was still very suspicious. I'm always suspicious of the Korean guys at that bar because they tend to be like hunting for foreigners because a lot of foreigners run to that bar. Or like they just kind of watch us, which just always felt weird. So I just always suspicious. So I just kind of ignored him and I was just dancing and everybody was like trying to make him drink alcohol. We later found out that he doesn't drink alcohol. So then I was dancing and I got too into it. I decided to go do a little turn and I fell. But before I could fall, he caught me. And I looked up at him and I was like, oh, wow, you are really handsome. I said that to him because when I drink, I have no filter. And he like kind of just picked me back up and he sat me in a chair, like literally sat me in a chair because my husband's a pretty big guy. And we just started talking. I looked at him and I said, I just knew like, okay, there's something special about this guy. And I thought I was crazy because I literally just pretty much dropped everything when I met him. I just dropped all my hoes. And I just like felt something. And I was like, I need to talk to you. So after our eyes met, and he said he felt the same thing. He said, when I met your eyes, that I knew you were interesting and I knew I needed to talk to you. So we were talking, and then it was time to go home. And he said, let me walk you home. And I was like, why? He said, because it's raining. And then I was like, no, I think it just started sprinkling a little bit. I was like, well, I live right around the corner, like literally around the corner, like 2 seconds. He's like, but it's raining. And then I kid you not, it started raining super hard. And he had an umbrella. And I was like, fine, I'll let you walk me home. And when we got to my door, he said, you are so interesting. Can we meet tomorrow? And I didn't know if he meant meet like as friends or meet as in a date, because I know Koreans, the way they say meet in Korean can mean different things. I didn't know how good his English was at that time. As a matter of fact, I said, yeah, sure. And I gave him my cacao and I went upstairs. I went to sleep, thought he was complete BS. Thought it was complete BS. Thought he was gonna ghost me the next day. And I woke up the next day. I was watching anime. I don't get hangovers. I was just watching anime and like chilling in my house in my pajamas. And he texted me like, "Are we still meeting today?" I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I just got myself together, ran, put on clothes. Like, can we meet in like an hour? I just got myself together. And then our first date was like 10 hours long of just talking. We just talked for 10 hours. I would say the general overall is idea or thoughts about it is generally like shock and surprised. It also depends on the Korean and who they were in, what they were introduced to first, because they're gonna believe pretty much the first thing they hear. I remember the news was reporting it as like, oh, this was a tragedy, because it all started with the George Floyd situation. The news was reporting it as a tragedy. The Koreans were very like surprised. They were like, what is going on in America? What is happening? And there was a lot of movement here from Koreans and other young people who were setting up things and doing things, trying to get awareness. And it really did move a lot of the younger people. I was a teacher. I'm not a teacher now, but when I was a teacher during that
Yeah.
time, and even my students um, were aware of what was going on. I taught like little kids, like elementary to middle school students. I had students writing in my writing books about like wanting to end racism and having these kind of deeper, more insightful things that I couldn't have even believed would have been possible, maybe even just 2 or 3 years ago. So it was really amazing to see like how things have changed. Yeah, you still get a lot of the people online behind the camera, but I think in face-to-face personality things, I think Korea is slowly opening their mind to the rest of the world, because I feel like before this whole situation, Korea had been so insulated, and they kind of may always be kind of insulated, but
Mm.
I think they're making an effort to be less insulated. The younger generation, my generation, and the people coming behind me, it feels like they're making more of an effort to get out of the we're just Korean and we don't have to worry about other people who aren't Korean, because it's kind of how it was before. They're really starting to like look around and say, oh, the world exists and these are issues that are happening all over. It's been really interesting to see.
Because
No,
obviously, oh
nah,
wow,
zero. No. What? Who's scared of the police in Korea? No one. Absolutely no one. No. Do they even carry guns? Man, the police. No, just no. No, no one's scared. No. As a matter of
Interesting.
fact, there was a statistic. As you know, the Winter Olympics was held here. I actually went to it. The people who attended that Olympics said it was the safest Olympics they ever felt because during the Olympics, all the guns were locked up. There are no guns in the Olympics at all, which is wild to most people. People think, oh, you got this huge event. Everyone should be carrying guns. But people said they felt so much safer because none of the security, none of the police officers were carrying guns. Korean officers don't carry guns um, on a usual basis. They will talk you to death. They are not going to put hands on you unless they literally absolutely have to. Yeah, no. Honestly, my husband is one of the most polite people we will probably ever meet, and that literally threw me for a loop. I was so confused. For a moment, he was so polite with me that I was like, do you even like me? Like, what? I was very confused. I feel like a lot. I've actually heard that it's a very similar thing. I've had like two or three other people who are also married to Koreans be like, yeah, when he was dating me, he was so polite. I was wondering, was he even interested? So, we went on like 3 dates, which is a very common thing in Korea. 3 days, and he was like, I would like you to be my girlfriend. He was very proper about it, and I was like, sure. Goes to drop all my hose.
Mm,
And that was funny because that
yes.
guy came back from America, and I was like, oh yeah, by the way, it's over. This whole little thing is over, and I thought that was gonna end smoothly, but it did not. So I
Yeah.
was just like, I just ended up one day with a person on my doorstep with a really huge basket for Valentine's Day. And said I was like, that's
Wow.
nice. And
Yeah,
I was
it's
just like, okay, gotta get rid of this thing. And then like I got him out, and then June walked in, like my husband walked in like an hour after, and I was like, ooh, I gotta get my life together. My life is too much like a TV show, and I don't like it. Yeah. Oh gosh, that was a really awkward situation. And then as far as like continuing dating, I met his parents at like I think we met at 100 days. He just decided to tell his parents we were dating, and to our surprise, they were like, "Yeah, we want to meet her." And he was
mm,
like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yep, we're gonna meet her." So we set up a dinner. His parents were super sweet. I was afraid they were gonna be like stereotypes. Nope, super sweet, super nice, wonderful people. Made me laugh. His mom is way too honest. Not about me, but about other people. She made me laugh for her honesty about other people. They don't speak
mm,
English, so it was a very interesting day of awkwardness and awkward jokes.
mm,
um, we ended up moving in together fairly quickly. I was ending the contract. I was ending my contract at my current job. I mean, at my job at that time, and I did not want to keep going because I had the crazy Hagwon life, and I
mhm,
had that crazy Hagwon story, and I was like, I need to move to a whole nother city because she's gonna ruin my life if I stay here. So at that time, my husband needed to finish school, and his school that he was finishing up was in Seoul. So we decided to move closer to Gyeonggi, and yeah, well, we decided. I said, well, I'm finishing my contract. I can move to Gyeonggi. Should we move together since you have to go to Seoul? And I can move to Gyeonggi. It'll be cheaper because if you're a student, you don't have any money, and my contract will pay for my house anyway. So if we talk to your parents, and his parents were like, yeah, that's a great idea, do it. And me and him were like, who is the parents here? Because we're over here like, is this appropriate? Is this okay? Is that all right? And we were just like, I think that's a great idea.
mm. Very interesting.
The
Very.
most non-traditional Korean parents, but traditional Korean parents you'll ever meet, I swear.
s-
I think Korean dating is specifically Korea. I'm honestly, because Korean life is very different than a lot of other places. It's very pari, and it means like very fast. And it's something I never experienced in any other country that I visited. I went to Japan and Singapore, and I've never seen people move or just live the way Koreans do. They just move fast. In general, as a life principle almost. And it goes down to dating. Koreans generally, they don't. So in America, we kind of get to know someone and then we decide to date them. In Korea, it's like we're dating to get to know each other. And most people is like, and when I say dating, so like your boyfriend and girlfriend, you're learning each other while you're boyfriend and girlfriend. So like people will say we're dating to get to know each other, but you're not like exclusive, right? In America or in the West. But in Korea, you go like 3 dates, so you can see if this person's all right. The 3 dates usually happen pretty quickly. I would say they're usually not more than a. If you don't have 3 dates within more than a month, I was he's like you must have some extenuating circumstances. So probably within the first month of meeting someone that you're interested in dating, they will be like, all right, I want to officially start dating you. And then you start the 100-day counter. So then Korea does the 100 days and 300 days, like things like this. And it starts from the day that one person officially kind of proposes dating as an official couple. So it's kind of really, really interestingly weird concept because as a person in the West, it's like girlfriend already or like what? But in this case, since I told you before, when I just felt like I needed to talk to this person and invest time in this person, so I just went with the flow. But on any other day, I would have been like, pump the brakes, stop, wait a minute, hold up, you're going too fast. I don't like it. Pineapples.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got engaged, it was overwhelmingly positive and almost a little weird. But when we got married, well, the thing is, we got married so quietly because of the situation that is currently occurring. And our families can't travel back and forth. So we got married fairly quietly. We told our parents. Our parents were like, yeah, sure, it's not ideal, but it's whatever. So we haven't had a ceremony. And so like our friends and stuff has just kind of been finding out by like visiting us and be like, oh yeah, we're married now. So, but no one's been like, oh, this is terrible. Everybody's been like, it's been weirdly, everybody's been like, all right, that's cool. Nice. Congratulations. That's pretty much how the reception has been. You get two types of people when you're dating interracially. You got the people who are just gonna hate it just because you're two different people dating. But you got the other side, like there's the people in the middle, but you get the two very extremes, and they are usually the loudest. And you get the people who are happy just because you're in an interracial relationship. I think those people are kind of the weirder ones because they are persistent. Like, did anyone say to my face like, "Oh, you're a bedwench"? Okay, actually, yes. I did get a few DMs, but they were not from people I knew. They were from strangers. It was so weird that people were suddenly so concerned about who some random stranger that they didn't know on the internet was dating. I thought it was wild. So that was strange, but no one I knew, like not his parents. Like I said, they were wonderful. Actually, they thanked me. They were like, "Thank you so much for taking our son." Because actually, his mom asked me why I even liked him. She was like, "You're so awesome. Why do you like him? He's so. What?" I told you, his mom she's cutthroat.
Yeah,
She
no,
plays no games. I mean, it probably helps that my husband's his aunt married a foreigner first, so I'm not the first one. They might have, who knows what initial shock they probably had with his aunt, who married her husband like 25, 6 years ago. They live in America now. So they probably were just like, as long as they're treated well. Well, I will say a few things. I have never dated a white guy.
Mm,
I mean, half white, not white white, you know.
mm, mm,
Uh, but I've never really dated a white guy, so I've never seen the appeal. So I mean, I of course I like every woman that breathes thinks that Chris Hemsworth is hot, but the average white guy isn't Chris Hemsworth,
mm,
right? So I don't know, but I will say that I don't know that it is a thing that black women date really anyone outside of their race. Actually, we're more likely, like black women specifically, are highly more likely to date another black person. As a matter of fact, before I even came to Korea, I had never dated. Well, let me think about this for a second. No, I had never dated a non-black man. So I think it's for a lot of people, unless they're like weirdly focusing on it. Like I said, there
mm,
are people like that. They're focused that will focus on race and make a real attempt to go outside of their race. But I think in those cases, for the most part, for the most people, maybe they was just in the same vicinity for a long period of time. A lot of love is just being in the same space for a lot of a period of time, and attraction. And I will say that Asian men and black women get so heavily fetishized. I know in real life, I know a ton of AMBW couples. I know a ton, but most of those couples completely avoid putting their life outside anywhere. They avoid putting it online. They just avoid it because it can be such a hassle. When you are, because as you said, it's kind of popular, and when it's so heavily kind of popularized or fetishized, you get people who think that they just have the right to ask you anything about your relationship. I actually made a whole YouTube about it because it was so frustrating. I actually made a whole video about, like, I asked a bunch of women married to Korean men and
mm.
asked a bunch of black women married to Korean men, like, what are questions you get asked all the time? And it's crazy. We get all the same questions, and they're always from people who don't really know us, people who are strangers, people who glanced and saw that one picture that you might have posted on your Instagram, and suddenly they feel like because you have an Asian spouse that they can ask you literally anything about your life. It is so tiresome. It is so tiresome. That's why my husband has stopped, like, he stopped kind of appearing on my social media because it was getting to be such a hassle. He was getting DMs from strange women and everything like that. And he's a very shy person. It was just becoming a lot. I'm not even a popular person. I'm just a normal everyday person. So, like, I can't even imagine, like, if you had a following, or if you made your content or something around that. Like, it's crazy. So I think a lot of Asian men and black women couples just kind of keep it on the low, because especially when you start having, if you start having kids, it becomes 1,000 times worse. Oh my gosh, it's stressful. Um, and, like, a lot of mixed race couples have this issue, but simply because the Hallyu wave, K-pop, K-dramas are so popular right now. I literally get people asking me, "How do you get one of those?
Mm.
One of
Um,
what?
yeah.
A human? A man? What do you mean? How'd you get a Korean guy? Does
Mm.
it matter that the way I got all other guys on my roster be cute, be interesting? I don't know. Like, I get these questions, like, literally, and like, it's crazy because the people don't mean any harm when they ask. I can tell in their tone, but it's still like, what do you mean? How did I get a Korean guy? He's a guy to me. I'm the prize, obviously. The Korean guys definitely know. I would say too though, like I think it all comes in waves, right? Because maybe 10 years ago, no one really cared about Korean guys. I think it was Japanese guys that were all the rave. Maybe,
Yeah.
how old am I? Maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe, like Japanese guys, because of anime. Like anime had the Japanese guys all the rave, and then boom, suddenly now K-pop, and it's all kind of terrible because a lot of these people can't tell the differences even between the languages or the cultures. They think it's all one big amalgam of take off your shoes and chopsticks. Uh, and it's wild, honestly. That's all I can say. That 15 years ago, Japanese guys were popular,
Mm-hmm.
and they're popular because of anime.
Yeah, but I
But
mean,
wait, I'm making a point. Okay, I'm getting there. But then most girls realize that Japanese guys don't exactly look like that anime, or they do, and it's just really weird to see that come to life in real life. But then here came K-pop idols, who are these, a lot of the, especially the earlier K-pop artists were these like androgynous looking, really pretty men who were pretty much the anime, the manga that just came to life for a lot of these girls. And like you were saying, they're objectifying them, they're fetishizing them because this is their ideal. They don't care about any of the bad things because this is their ideal. They got these pretty flower boys who are their boyfriends because that's the K-pop idol thing, and they are pretty, they're perfect, they don't do anything wrong in their mind. You just brought their ideal, especially people who have been like weebs or stuff for a long time, you just brought it to life. And then you got the dramas, which add another layer to that, where they get to see this guy, the whole story of the jerky guy actually being the tsundere, basically being like a really cool person at the end. I don't know. I really don't like the dramas. They really annoy me. But yeah, some people are really interested in that. And it really feeds into these girls who want to have escapism, who want to escape whatever they're going through. They just really latch on to these ideals of these persons. They don't really care about the person. But if you told them that they don't really care about the person, then they would, fight you. But that's just the truth. I would say go with the flow as much as possible because people usually give one of two types of advice, and it's either take off the rose colored glasses, they have this many problems, so that person might come in expecting the worst, and then people will say, oh, Korea's awesome, Korea's great. I just say, like, go with the flow. If you're visiting Korea, if you want to live in Korea, try to surround yourself with positive people. I mean, don't try not to let yourself get too taken away with the idealistic stuff, but like it's a country like anything else, and they're living, breathing people. It's not. I mean, ignore my story completely. It's not like the dramas. Don't just ignore me. I'm not normal. Um, it's just come over here with an open mind, but know who you are, because a lot of people leave their country because they're running away from an issue, or they're trying to fix a problem, or they, for some reason, they're coming to another country, and they think it's going to fix it, and it doesn't. If you had identity issues before, coming to Korea is not going to fix them, and it's probably going to exacerbate them because you're so susceptible to all these out of influences. If you had body issues before, Korea is definitely not going to help you. Um, if you had any financial issues, things like this, just moving countries, moving around is not going to benefit you. You need to be sure of who you are as a person before you start looking outwardly to just for outward fixings for an internal problem. So that's my biggest advice, because a lot of the people who have had the hardest time or who've had the biggest wake up calls and stuff like that are people who just really didn't know expected something and then just got a completely different thing, and they just weren't able to adjust to it. Or
But
the opposite also happens a lot. See, a lot of people don't talk about this. Like, in an effort to make people aware that Korea has issues, there's been like a lot of press like Koreans are racist, Koreans are xenophobic, Koreans are this, Koreans are that, and so there are people who don't ever want to visit Korea because they just feel like as soon as they get off the plane, people are going to be rude and nasty and horrible to them. Because that's a common narrative, and that's why I said like either or, just come in with that middle, because Koreans generally are very helpful people. I got lost one time and I didn't speak any Korean, and I speak a lot of more Korean now, but at that time I didn't speak any Korean, and the Korean was like, you look so lost, like where are you trying to go? They've always been very kind and generally kind people. Like, there's jerks everywhere, but it's just like best to come not expecting a drama, but not expecting some super racist people who are going to hate you just for being foreign, because it's not just because you black. It's just foreign. Actually, Koreans are probably more a little bit against other Asians, but that's an Asia thing, not a particularly Korea thing. There's some isms over here.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. And so I also wanted to ask. I know you brought up YouTube earlier. Are you on YouTube? Do you have a YouTube channel?
Uh, yeah, all my social media is the same. Ali, ALY, SSO. It's the same. Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, literally all the same. I do have personal stuff, but I try to keep it a little bit separate.